The autumn wind is a pirate.
Welcome, Raider Nation, to the Raider Nation podcast. I'm your host, Raider Greg, back in the house. Yes, this is show 547, folks. 547 podcast to you, the Raider Nation, and I'm sure people who have been forced to listen to me over the years. You know, strange times, been a long time between shows now. March 19th was on my last show, and we got a lot to talk about, so let's dive into this show. We'll get into what's on it, and then we'll do a little preliminary about what's happening, at least from what I can see. All right, Raider Nation, on today's show, we will have the season premiere. Who are we playing? When? And what that team looks like now. It's kind of strange. NFL's kind of a wild ticket as far as I'm concerned, but a lot of changes happened in the league over this year, and it's been kind of fogged over by the recent events, so we'll talk about that. The Raider Nation has a house. That's right. Las Vegas Raiders in the house, announced during the COVID, was kind of again, fogged over a bit, but a substantial change in the Raiders. We have a house, it's our own, and when people go there, they're going to the true and only black hole. I love it. I can't wait. We're going to talk about that, a little about the draft, a little bit about me. I hope to talk about you. And we'll search the Boneline, see if there's any bone lines there, so we can share those comments with you all. Nice to be back. It's been kind of weird to be away, and I'll tell you why. I'd like to start off by saying I pray that all of you and your family has done well in this crazy time of COVID. Let me tell you, as a paramedic for as long as I've been one, and the things that I've seen, and the other diseases that have flashed through the country, this is a different proportion. I'm blessed that I'm not working, and I pray for those who are. You know, it has been tough to do a show. I've been locked down from most everything. So I'm coming back. We have to come back to reality, because football will be back. We will be back as a nation, which also strikes me into another subject that, you know, I got to tell you, for me, you know, my life story, raised in the military. Matter of fact, in Alabama, Mississippi, we didn't live on base. We didn't live away from the people. We always lived in the neighborhood. Even in Japan, we lived in the hood. So I really didn't see color. And I know that's hard for people to hear, but I just saw people. And you know, the thing I didn't see, and I didn't hear it from them because they didn't complain about it to me, was how unjust it's been in this country for them. And it's a crazy concept. So for me, it hurts me. Hurts me that it's taken this long. Hurts me that it's still going on. And because these are my brothers and sisters, in more ways than one, it's crazy. So I just want to say, for me, that has to get fixed. Has to get fixed right now. And I'm all in on whatever it takes. When I went to Raider game, I never thought of color, ever. I just thought of our fans, people, great people, of every color, every nationality. I just think that's special about the Raider fan in general. Very welcoming, very warm to everybody. And that's how I've always felt. You know, it's funny, my father had severe discrimination in New York. He was Puerto Rican, a short brown man. And he told me some crazy stories, but I never experienced those stories. So I hope that nobody has to do that in the near future. Let's get that fixed, shall we?
There's a Stiller on my shoulder, can I kill it? There's a Charger on my shoulder, can I kill it?
All right.
There's a Bronco on my shoulder, can I kill it?
On to the schedule for the Las Vegas
Raiders.
Raiders.
There's a Stiller on my shoulder, can I kill it? There's a Charger on my shoulder, can I kill it? There's a Bronco on my shoulder, can I kill it? The Raider Nation in the house, can you feel it? 5'6" and I'm all up in the mix. Sunday morning, gotta get my Raider fix.
First game is away. It's at Carolina against the Panthers. My Blue Kitties. I don't know what sound that was, but it wasn't the right one. Give me a break. It's been a minute. Anyways, My Blue Kitties, they're not a bad team, but I think we're going to win that game. First game of the season.
You can't touch this.
I think we got some good toys. Our offense is really seasoned if you look at them. I think we can go into Carolina and really win that game. So I'm putting a W on the first game of the season.
Wow, I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't.
Now, the second game of the season is the Saints. They come to town. The Saints ain't no joke. They're not a great away team, but they're a great team. That's going to be a tough game. We could win, but I think we might not. So that I'd put an L on.
The thrill is gone. The thrill is gone away.
Next, we've traveled to the frigid stadium. Not really, because it's early in the season. The New England Not-So-Patriots. We're going to see them this year. In the third week of the season, we go to see the Tom Brady-less Patriots. It'll be funny to see how they play. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near where they were. And in the third week of the season, I think we could certainly beat the Patriot Rats with our offense and defense. The defense we have is much improved. I say again, a win.
Yo, sound the bell. School is in, sucker. Hammer time. It's hammer, go, hammer, empty hammer, yo, hammer, and the rest can go and play. Can't touch this.
So that's 2 wins and a loss in the first 3 games. Buffalo. Traveling. Buffalo is, that's a tough team. They're playing very well. They're not real spoken of in the league at all because they never have been until they've been in the playoffs. The Buffalo Bills are a strong team, very tough. I think we might pull the L off in that one.
But I still haven't found what I'm looking for.
But, yeah, that would be a tough game. And it looks to me in our first 4 games, we'll be a 2 win, 2 loss. That's my prediction. And then we go to the Kansas City Chiefs, go to their house. And, well, what can I say? They're a juggernaut. They're not going to change from last season very much. We should be able to play them hard, but I still think it's going to be a tough win.
The thrill is gone, baby. The thrill is gone away.
And then the game of the year comes next. The Tampa Bay Succaneers are coming to Las Vegas. Gruden's old team comes back with our arch nemesis, Tom Brady. They've got a good team. But I think there's too much emotion there for the Las Vegas Raiders. I think it'll be a froth fest. I think we'll win this game in Vegas.
Hey, 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 hey! Super freak, super freak, super freaking out. Everybody sing.
We'll beat them and Brady and send them packing back to the South. Next game, Cleveland. In Cleveland, Brownies. They're way improved. Make no mistake, they're going to be a tough team to beat. If they get it together at all, they'll be near impossible to beat with the talent they have in their roster. We'll see if they've got it together by week 8, whether they're going the way up or on the way down. That'll make a big difference on the prediction of that match because the Browns can be hot and cold. I suspect they'll be hot. They got the talent to be. Oh, then we go to L.A. That's right. Come back to the L.A. Chargers, which their stadium again will be full of Raider fans. I love it. I can't believe how cool that is. I think we're going to beat the Chargers without Phillip Rivers or with them. I know we'll beat it without him. I think we could take this down and do a good job of it.
I like it, I love it, I want some more of it.
Week 10, the Broncos travel to Oakland. Broncos, they've got an improved team, but I still think we can beat the Broncos.
Let me ride that donkey, donkey. Let me ride that donkey, donkey. Let me ride that donkey, donkey. Let me ride that donkey, donkey.
Then the Chiefs travel to Las Vegas, and I think will beat us again.
Been dazed and confused for so long.
Then we travel to the Falcons. The Falcons, that's a hot and cold team. I'm saying that's going to be a W.
Watch me! Watch me! I got it! Watch me! I got it! Hey!
The Jets, I don't know, man. Jets are powerful. They're strong and they're brutal. They'll have a good season next year. I think that might be the L.
And when the blue snowflakes start falling.
You're going to the Colts with Phillip Rivers. Not going to be much of an improvement. They'll be a better team because their line is way better. Phillip could have a pretty good day. I still think it's a W for the Raiders.
Hey! I got something that makes me want to shout. I got something that tells me what it's all about.
Then again, we play L.A., the Chargers. I think that could also be another W.
I got soul, and I'm super bad.
Then we play, of course, the Dolphins. I think that could be a W.
I got soul, and I'm super bad.
And then, of course, again, we play the Broncos. I think that could be a W.
Sometimes I feel so nice. Good God. I jump back. I want to kiss myself. I got soul. And I'm super bad. Hey!
I think they all could be a W.
I tour around the world, from London to the Bay. It's hammer, go, hammer, empty hammer, yo, hammer, and the rest can go and play. Can't touch this. Can't touch this.
I think our team is on a precipice of winning. I think we're on a way and on a wave of talent, young talent, good coaching. With Martinelli in the house, watch out. Our defense is going to change like night and frickin' day. The blitzes are going to be crazier. There'll be more of them. And I know that he's not the head coach yet, but he is going to make some serious moves on our defense to improve it. I think our team's going to be outstanding. I know Derek Carr is the biggest question of the frickin' year. Now I'm going into another story, but what the hell? Now, Derek Carr. Yes, we all thought maybe there's a trade. Perhaps maybe we're waiting for Mariota to jump in, and that could be the plan for next year. I have no idea. I don't think that's a smart idea, but who knows? I do know that Derek Carr is under fire. If you don't get it together this year, he will definitely not be in Las Vegas next year. So watch for sale sign. If he ain't playing so good, watch for a sale sign there in Henderson because he might not be with the team in the coming seasons. Saying that, I think the coach is doing a good job. I think the team's doing a pretty good job. I think our talent level is increasing. And with this COVID thing, it screwed everybody. This is the benefit of everybody going to suffer the same consequences. Nobody's practicing. Nobody's doing anything. So I'm hoping and praying that the Raiders have a plan in place to get these guys into a playbook somehow, into it on video classes together, something to start this formation of a team like we saw last season, where they start to play for each other, which is what we need to see. That extra effort just to make it so for your teammates. That's what I'm seeing out of this team, and I think it's getting better, and it'll keep getting better once we rock out of this COVID thing. And I'm looking at maybe a vaccine. Hell, let's hope so, because that would change the entire world as we know it, especially our world here in the United States of America and our absolute life and the way it's been. Crazy, huh? I think so too. On that note, that's what I think about the season. I think we got a lot of good things to look forward to because other teams have changed so much. It'll be an exciting season. You know, I've been looking at old football games. I'm getting pumped up for the season. I'm excited about how things will happen. With or without Derek Carr, I know his will be his last year if you don't put it together. So either we're going to get together or we're going to get a new quarterback. That's what I think about that. And, well, let's move on to another subject, shall we? Let's talk a little Allegiant Stadium, shall we?
Bright light said it gonna set my soul on fire. Got a whole lot of money that's ready to burn, so get those stakes up higher. Oh, there's blackjack and poker and the roulette wheel, a fortune won and lost on every deal. All you need is a strong heart and a nerve of steel. Viva Las Vegas!
Las Vegas Raiders' new home, this epic icon in the desert, looks like a magnificently huge black hockey puck. It's beautiful. It's really pretty. And it's massive. It's bigger than I even imagined it being. Fortunately for me, well, we'll see what happens. My wife and I are supposed to see Garth Brooks there in August, but we shall see. Hope they have it. If they do, I'll get a good chance to see the stadium for the first time. But so far, it looks amazing. The training facility, which is activated, they backed up the trucks in the middle of the night. Just like they did when they moved to Los Angeles. They did the same thing. This time, they backed up the trucks. They loaded all the stuff from Alameda and trucked it all to Las Vegas. And their facility there is complete. They're just doing the ins and outs of the fields, and that's where we're going to do practice. That's where their new training camp's going to be this year, which will be great because it's brand new. I mean, what an advantage is that? The Raiders, this is the first time this facility ever be used. Very nice, special, and close to the big stadium. It's huge. It's amazing. So if you get a chance to look at it, check out on Raiders.com. And look at this monster because it is truly a mammoth stadium. I never in my life thought that the Raiders would have something like this. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing they do. They're near being finished. That training facility is epic. Same color scheme. Same everything. It's wild.
On this week's Adam Schefter podcast, we are joined by the legendary broadcaster Brent Musburger, who is now the lead broadcaster and managing editor at Vegas Stats and Information Networks, with the Supreme Court decision that sets up the legalization of gambling in potentially all states down the line. Brent Musburger obviously is the subject of many requests, a very busy man, and we are thankful that he was able to squeeze us into that schedule this past week.
You're next up, lad. Your pick has got to be in 15 minutes.
Oh God, I wanted more time with the great Brent Musburger. I wanted to tell the Brent Musburger life story.
I haven't given you the book rights yet. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I would have bid for them, Brent. I would have bid big money. What is this going to do to sports now and 5 and 10 years from now?
Well, I think you're going to see more prominent advertising for sports gambling sites and casinos and things like that. Adam, I would guess that the NFL would be able to charge high rates for advertising for the various big-time casinos in New Jersey and Nevada, some of the chains that extend down through the Gulf Coast and everything. That would be a big impact. And it's going to change the media from the standpoint that at ESPN, that scroll just prior to the kickoffs of the games on Sunday, Monday, Thursday, that will update the latest line movement, because sometimes there's a little bit of a half-point change. The over-under number might 1.5, couple points move, something like that. Broadcasters will feel, freer when they announce that somebody has covered a spread later in a game without just simply talking to their analyst during a commercial break. So it becomes a more open discussion of what's going on with the game within the game. Now, listen, most people don't bet. Let's be perfectly honest. It is a sizable portion of the audience. The NFL has had difficulty over the last 2 or 3 years when it comes to television ratings, and because of this interest, it would be my prediction that the television ratings will start to bounce back up because of the new gambling laws. It's going to do nothing but help the NFL, NBA, and hockey, and certainly baseball, which probably needs more help than anybody right now. I noticed last time I checked, the ratings were off this year in Major League Baseball. So they need more help than anybody else.
But don't you think that gambling it's always been a part of football, Brent? Always.
Yes. Now you can talk about it.
Yes.
You get it out of the back alleys. You get it out of the underground. The executives who have been scared to death of the front office of the NFL no longer have to do that. It's legal for someone to make a bet on a game, so it can be intelligently discussed and not coyly mentioned, as Al and I have done throughout the years covering football.
And Chris Berman, too, by the way. Do you think that the day will come where we actually get sports books inside stadiums so that people who are attending a Cowboys-Packers game can all of a sudden bet on the things going on right in front of them?
Yes and no. I'm not sure that that's around the corner. But if you take a look at the UK, in all of the major soccer venues, there's someone who has the rights, and that will be a money-making issue for the National Football League. I don't think that's going to happen, Adam, immediately, to tell you the truth. I think that might be decades down the road. But, yes, there will come a day. Now, whether or not they're going to allow actual in-game, I'm not sure. They'll probably start out with pre-game. Maybe you could make a halftime wager. But that would give the league the opportunity to get a piece of the action going forward. But I think that's a long, long way down the road, to tell you the truth.
Brent, have you always bet on football?
No. Jimmy the Greek led me astray, lad. I'm blaming him. The Greek loved to bet horses. He was addicted to betting on horses. And he would take me, and these guys, they basically had an eraser and a piece of chalk and a chalkboard hanging up, and somebody on a ladder would be erasing the odds and putting the numbers up there, and the Greek would make a bet. And I met these people around there, and then the Greek said, football, that's the best. So we would go over to the Barbary Coast, which was owned by Michael Gunn, and this became a little bit later as the Greek became part of the NFL Today family after I had moved over to television. Yeah. So he said, I love the Barbary. I love Mr. Gunn because on the parlay cards, ties win. So the Greek took me over, and of course I'd put down a $5 bill on a 3-teamer or a 4-teamer and usually donate to the state coffers out here in Nevada. But that's basically Adam how I got involved with it. And then of course we took the Greek. Bob Wessler's idea was to add the Greek after the first year of the NFL Today, where we had Irv Cross and Phyllis George. And he called me in the summer, and I was in Montana. And he said, Brent, do you know Jimmy the Greek? And I laughed, and I said, I know him very well. I said, I'm a friend of his. We're acquaintances. We've hung out together in Vegas. He said, I'd like to add him to the NFL Today. I said, well, that will be good. But I said, the only thing I'd ask for is I want a meeting with the Greek and me and you with Commissioner Pete Rozelle. And obviously, that's a very good idea. We should do that. So we had the meeting. I had known Pete Rozelle from way back when he was a PR man, and later I would run into him at racetracks. He loved to bet the races.
Yep.
And I thought, this is a leg in our favor, okay? And it was. Pete understood the publicity that could be gathered by putting the Greek on that show, but he did ask us during that meeting, would you please refrain from saying that a team is a 3-point favorite or a 7.5-point favorite or a 10-point favorite. He went through about 3 numbers, and the Greek and I kind of looked at each other, but I knew it was a deal breaker. And I said, certainly, Commissioner, we can work around that. And I was glad I was seated far enough away from the Greek that he couldn't kick me under the table. But I knew it was our only chance. So back we go, and Mike Pearl was the producer. Bob Fishman was the director. And we sat around, and I believe it was Mike's idea. How about we use a checkboard? And if the Greeks got enough checks on one side, people will know that he expects a blowout. And I said, let's try that. So that's how the checkboard originated. It was a Greek himself who wanted the intangibles at the bottom. The Greek, interestingly enough, was a very good friend also of Al Davis's. Al was very interested in the whole gambling apparatus surrounding football. And he and the Greek became very, very good friends. And so on the intangibles check, let's say that the Denver Broncos were playing the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yep.
And if the intangibles check was on the Kansas City Chiefs, I pretty much knew where we were headed, okay? Because I said, Greek, what's that check? What's that check mark there behind? We understand that there's a little turmoil in the Broncos locker room, okay? So-and-so is not getting along with such and such. So I knew that I went back and looked at the NFL schedule that a couple of weeks down the road, the Broncos will be playing the Oakland Raiders. And I knew that the Greek's last phone call every night before he put his list together was with Al Davis. So really, the puppeteer for the intangibles was Al Davis, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, yeah. Yep.
Okay. And so that's how it all got started with the Greek, and that's how I got interested in betting on football.
Brent, you're in Vegas. I got to ask you, how is football in the NFL going to fare there once the Raiders officially arrive?
You know, it's funny you're asking me. I'm looking out the window of Arlene and the condo that we rent, which is a high rise, and I'm looking down on the location right now. And I will tell you that Mark Davis comes around a lot and watches the Golden Knight games down here. He comes to town frequently to talk with the contractors and the architects and those people around town. And he is so hopeful that the city embraces him as it has done this hockey team. I think they will do very, very well. And Adam, I think clearly those teams that play the Raiders every year, Kansas City, Denver, the Chargers, this will be a destination for them. They will come in here. This will be one of the places that they will want to see their team on the road. They've sold a lot of season tickets. I bought a couple of them from them because you get access eventually. Eventually, I have a Final Four in this stadium. The NCAA announced that it was withdrawing the ban on their events in states which have legalized gambling.
Yep.
And, of course, that opens the way for Nevada to be hosting part of March Madness. I think this will be the number one destination for road team fans to visit. There are so many hotels. And once they get the bridges completed over the interstate, believe it or not, you'll be able to walk over or take a trolley from your hotel to the stadium over there. I think it is going to be enormously successful. And with the Supreme Court doing what they did, legalizing betting on sports for the rest of the country, that sort of takes the onus off of it. And so be it. You know, here they are in Las Vegas.
So congratulations, Raiders. Congratulations to the Las Vegas Raiders officially. Because in the fog of the moments of all that's going on, that kind of got missed. So they officially changed their name and culture and everything else to Las Vegas. It's all about the money, but they will always be my Oakland Raiders. All right, well, let's talk about this draft because honestly, I don't even want to think about it. Not my favorite one in quite some time. Let's talk about it.
There are many first evers that are part of this draft, including the first ever official draft selection by the Las Vegas Raiders. And I've got it right here. So with the 12th pick of the 2020 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select.
You know, it's been a while since the draft, which to me was like a popcorn fart. Everyone was slapping themselves in the back for a job well done. Tough in the COVID situation. However, I don't think it was any great thing. Matter of fact, I thought it was pretty lame. They could have done a way better job at this draft. I hope if we still have this next season, they figure it out. Because I'll just say one thing. The background on some of these coaches of their beautiful homes is great. Then you guys got guys in the basement. You guys got guys in the closet. It was less than admirable, to say the least. So let's get that right next time, NFL. Okay, well, here's the Raiders draft choices. To say I was sick and I didn't get the virus, but boy, was I sick during this draft. The first pick, Henry Ruggs III, reminded me of an Al Davis pick. I'm sure he'll do well. I hope he's the best wide receiver in football, but speedsters rarely are.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say Cliff Branch?
Speed.
Speed. Total speed.
As they too found that on the gridiron highway, speed does kill.
I think Cliff Branch was a game-changing kind of receiver.
When he was a young player, he would maybe in the third quarter say, "Hey, coach, I can beat my guy deep." And after he'd played for 5 or 6 years, the national anthem just finished, and he was right next to me and said, "Coach, I can beat my guy deep." I said, "Cliff, we haven't even played it down yet. How do you even know who your guy is?"
Who will most definitely have the biggest impact among rookies in 2020?
I'm going with the Raiders' new wide receiver, Henry Ruggs III. If you think about the impact Tyreek Hill has had on the Chiefs, he's just a special player. You can't coach speed. In the 6 years that Derek Carr has been in the league, he has 11 passes over 50-plus yards for a TD. That's pretty wild. He should double that this year with Tyrell Williams, Darren Waller, and now Henry Ruggs. And here's the thing. He had an 87-yard TD to Amari Cooper back when Cooper was still on the Raiders. I guarantee that Henry Ruggs has a 90-plus yard TD this season. I got Henry Ruggs making a big impact.
Ooh.
Oakland Raiders insider, Scott Bair.
And for this episode, we're really excited because Alabama beat writer Michael Casagrande, who's going to break down everything that you need to know about number 12 overall pick, Henry Ruggs. And there's a lot of insight that I'm definitely excited to hear about a guy that could play a huge role for the Raiders as a rookie.
Yeah, it's going to be great to hear from Michael, someone who's covered the team for 5 years.
Michael, my first question is this. We all know about Henry Ruggs' amazing speed. We've seen that 40-yard dash time, but what else impresses you about the way he goes about his business, and how did you see him grow during his time at the University of Alabama?
Yeah, no, when he got there, he was kind of known as an athlete. He'd only been playing football a few seasons. He was mostly a basketball star before really taking up football as his primary sport later in high school. But yeah, everyone knew about his track speed, and that was kind of everything that they recruited him on. But I think you saw as time moved on, you could see his football skill improve, his route running. He had a few catches, some great catches, some good hands. He improved his hands throughout his time there. But yeah, he was he came in and I think his first 6 or 7 catches went for touchdowns in his freshman year. So he was kind of an electric player from the beginning. But you saw him kind of come into his own as a football player, and not just, the quote unquote, the athlete, the speed burner that had been, his reputation and still kind of his calling card. But he's more of a football player than he was maybe when he first came in.
Mike Mayock here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's get into the evaluation. We had, again, Elway on yesterday. He said that the Broncos ran several mock drafts, and not a single one of their mock drafts had Ruggs being taken by you. Why did you choose Ruggs out of all the wide receivers at your disposal, potentially?
Well, there was that quote, that group of the top 3 wideouts that everybody wanted to talk about, Judy, Ruggs, and CeeDee Lamb, and we loved all 3 of them. And I felt like John and our staff could take advantage of the distinctive talents of all 3 because they were very different. And at the end of the day, I think the pure speed of Henry Ruggs is kind of what changed things for us. And I think we felt like we've been bereft of speed, both vertically and horizontally. And when you get a guy like Ruggs, not only are you getting the vertical threat, the deep overs, the post routes, you're also kind of getting those manufactured touches, the horizontal ones, the jet sweeps, the bubble screens. When I talked to Nick Saban and he told me he approaches every day like he's a walk-on, his work ethic is off the charts. He was a gunner and a jammer on special teams. So we felt like we got in one body, we got a potential kick returner, we got a gunner jammer, we got a guy to stretch the field vertically. And I think even more important than all of that, Rich, because, again, I think John could have used all 3 of those wideouts to their highest degree of excellency. But what changed it for us is we felt like that element of speed would make Josh Jacobs better, would make Darren Waller better, would make everything underneath better, and effectively make our whole offense better.
Let's hope that this Henry Ruggs guy is the man. It seems to be. We'll just play it out, see what happens. The second pick at number 19, which had me just screaming, literally. I'm surprised the law enforcement didn't show up at my house, because Damon Arnett, okay? Cornerback, Ohio State. Okay, that was like a wah, 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 wah pick. You could try to juke that all what you want. You could tell everybody that was your pick all the way around. I say bullshit. It was a wasted pick. I'm sure he's an all right player, but a first-round pick for this guy that was projected to go in the 3rd or 4th round? Reach. And to me, that's trying to be a little fancy. To me, that's trying to be a little smarter than anyone else. And we have never, as a team, done well with that attitude in the draft process. I'll tell you right now.
We are so excited to have our feature guest on the Raiders Talk podcast coming to you from Columbus. That's right, Bill Rabinowitz, Ohio State football beat writer for the Columbus Dispatch. We're kind of doing a deep dive into number 19 overall NFL draft pick, Damon Arnett. And my first question is this. When you saw him go at number 19, a guy that some people thought could be a second-round pick, what was your immediate reaction to that?
Well, it's funny because not long before that, we had a conference call with Kerry Combs, who's now back as his defensive coordinator. He spent 3 years, 2 or 3 years, can't remember, with the Tennessee Titans as their defensive backs coach. And I asked Kerry about Arnett. He said he's going to go higher in the draft than people think. So when he went 19th, I just started smiling. I even texted Kerry, and I said, "You knew, didn't you?" He's a first-rounder in talent for his career until he got to his senior year. He didn't play like a first-rounder, but he did as a senior. He had a broken wrist. He broke it in training camp, and he still had an amazing year. Jeff Okudah got most of the hype. Went 3rd overall to Detroit. But Damon Arnett was really, really good too. So, Ohio State's defensive back, the DBU thing, that has continued. Damon Arnett has kind of continued that line.
Yeah, so when Damon was going through the pre-draft process, the scouts all of them harped on character issues. So I wanted to get your take on, did you think he had character issues, or is that something where maybe a scout heard something his sophomore year and just kind of hung on to it?
Yeah, I used to cover the NFL, and so I know that every player's got something. If they don't, you got to make up something. Chase Young was, they'll find something. In Damon Arnett's case, it was legitimate, not the character stuff. And character is such a loaded word. It wasn't character as in anything that was like, criminal or disrespectful. It was nothing like that. It was just maturity. And he's admitted that. He was, just kind of had to learn things the hard way. He was always considered a good kid, always considered a hard worker. But it was just the idea that, okay, are you going to have the focus to every single day do what you're supposed to do to put yourself in position to be a first-round draft pick? And until his senior year, he didn't. I talked to him after the Rose Bowl the year before, and I went to a bunch of players and said, do you plan to come back? He was like, and he basically nodded like, no, I'm done. I'm done. And that's what he was. I don't want to say 1 foot out the door. He was 2 feet out the door. He only went back to Columbus to collect his clothes. And he talked to Chris Carter, who's a family friend, a Hall of Fame receiver, obviously former Ohio State player. And Chris Carter's a blunt guy, and said, basically, you're not ready. What have you proven? What have you done at Ohio State to justify you going to the NFL? And then when Jeff Hafley arrived, he kind of, not quite as blunt, but he kind of sold Damon Arnett on coming back for one more year, and boom, Damon Arnett returns, and he'll be the poster boy for why you sometimes should come back. Now, there are guys that should go turn pro, but he's like the poster boy for guys who should come back.
When you looked at the differences between his junior year and the year after he decided to come back, what did you see as the biggest differences, the biggest improvements that he had as a senior?
He was so much more fundamentally sound. Early in his career, he would be very handsy, would get a lot of holding, pass interference calls, wouldn't necessarily look back for the ball at the right time, and that was something they coached badly, in my opinion. But last year with Jeff Hafley, they really changed the scheme. They also used more zone coverage. They had been, until then, predominantly, almost exclusively a man-to-man press defense. And that's their trademark. That's what they like to do, and that's still what they do most of the time. But to be able to mix it up, it really benefited him. And I think, honestly, you get many more interceptions when you're in zone coverage, because you're in man coverage, you're following your guy. You're not looking for the ball. You're following your guy. When you're in zone coverage, you can break on the ball, read what the quarterback's doing and all that stuff. And he really was very, very good. Very few penalties. Just looked like a guy that was on top of his game.
You mentioned Jeff Okudah earlier, and John Gruden has said that he thinks Damon Arnett is as good, if not better, than Jeff Okudah. We know John Gruden's the ultimate hype man, so that might just be John Gruden doing his thing. But you watch both these guys. How do you compare and contrast both of them, and where do they differ?
Well, I would have taken Okudah first. But that's only because Okudah is almost your prototype for what you want a cornerback to be. Physically, mentally, intelligence, work ethic. There was never a question about Jeff Okudah. Maybe the only knock on him was he didn't have a lot of interceptions. Again, I go back to the zone versus press man coverage thing. But he added that to his resume last year. So Jeff Okudah was as close to a flawless prospect as you're going to find. There were the questions about Arnett. He really only had one really good year. Now, he was good enough to start at Ohio State, so it wasn't like he was a terrible player. But he wasn't consistent the way that Jeff Okudah was. But I think, is he a legitimate first-round pick? Yeah, I think he is. He's got to play to that level. But, when they took him, I didn't think, what are they doing? I thought, well, that work really paid off.
And when you read all of this, all the draft profiles and things like that, they always talk about his aggressiveness, his competitive drive. And this is a guy that, as you mentioned, played with a broken wrist for most of the year. Was that a trait that was evident when you watched him practice and when you watched him play?
Well, we don't get to watch him practice. So
okay, right.
I can't vouch for that. But, yeah, there were times, and I asked him a couple of times, could you have had that interception if you had two good hands? He said, yeah. So, yeah, it certainly did. It's hard to play with a cast on your hand. You're a quarterback. it did affect him, but not to the point where it stopped him from being clearly better than he was last year. And I think what it did was it forced him to be so fundamentally sound, because if something's wrong with your body, you better make sure that everything else is right on the mark. And so he was in good position. If he couldn't intercept the ball, he was able to bat the ball away. You learn to play with what you can't do sometimes. And so maybe he might say now, maybe it was a blessing in disguise, but obviously you want to be able to catch the ball with two hands. And it was a full cast. I mean, it was down well down his forearm. He's a guy that always played with a chip on his shoulder, always had that swagger kind of mentality to him. The results didn't always match that, but he always kind of carried himself like he was a potential first-round pick in a good way. I mean, I did a profile on him late last year, and he's a very thoughtful guy. He's from South Florida, and those guys tend to have, you can tell the South Florida guys. Mm-hmm. They just have a certain kind of attitude, and he's got that. But it's not just kind of this cockiness for cockiness' sake. He's a thoughtful guy. He's a caring guy. One of the things that I learned when I did that story was he would go to schools and talk to kids and do all this kind of community service stuff that he might have paid lip service to before, but he was really sincere about doing that kind of stuff last year. And I talked to his dad quite a bit, and he's just a guy who it just took a while to develop and took a while to mature, by his own admission.
When you look at all of the influences on him, and obviously people like to point to that to that improved senior year, when you had a guy like Jeff Hafley come back in, like what kind of influence do you think that he had in Damon's progress?
Yeah, Jeff Hafley is a special coach. You could tell from the very first press conference he did at Ohio State that this guy was on the ball. And he came from the NFL. Ryan Day, recruited him. They coached together out there, obviously. Mm-hmm. And that was one of his guys. He wanted to get Jeff Hafley, and then very disappointed that Jeff Hafley went to BC, went to Boston College after only 1 year. But Boston College, knew that Jeff Hafley was going to be a hot commodity and got him. He brings a swagger. I mean, Jeff Hafley is kind of that kind of guy, very personable, very knowledgeable. You can tell he's a master with the X's and O's. And those two guys just clicked. And really, honestly, Jeff Hafley clicked with everybody in the Ohio State secondary. He really made a difference because the year before, Ohio State's defense was awful by Ohio State standards. Gave up most yards, most points. I mean, everything. They were, at times, an absolute mess. Maryland scored 53 points on them. I think it was 54, 53. I can't remember exactly. But it was the week before the Michigan game in 2018. That's why everyone thought Michigan was going to, crush Ohio State, because Ohio State, if the Maryland quarterback had thrown an accurate pass on a 2-point conversion, Ohio State loses that game. And so Jeff Hafley inherited this defense. He and several other coaches overhauled that defense, and it was a completely different results last year. They were a lights-out defense for most of the year. Unfortunately, not against Clemson at the end, but for the most, it was as dominating an Ohio State team as I've ever seen, and I've followed them since I was a kid growing up in Ohio, and this was as good as they got for Ohio State. They just unfortunately, kind of kicked away the Clemson game with some help from, as Ohio State fans will say, with some help from the people in stripes. But they had their chances to win that game without question.
So when Damon got drafted in the post-draft press conference, he said he came back to rewrite his legacy at Ohio State. Now that it's over, what would you say his legacy is at Ohio State? Yeah, I think it's a guy who showed that how you finish really is how you'll be remembered. Because if he had left after his junior year, he would have been thought of as an underachiever. You're just another guy. And now that's nothing wrong with being just another guy at Ohio State, especially given what they've done with defensive backs. But he wanted to be what he became. And so I think that was a really wise decision, a mature decision. Look, it's not easy to turn down the NFL, especially when your heart's set on it and you're mentally kind of checked out. He had thought all year, his junior year, that was going to be his last year. And so to me, it shows a lot of maturity to reassess
listen to what people are telling you, and do it. And then not come back and complain and be a malcontent, say, I should be here. He bought in, and he was a team player all year, and obviously, the wrist is the biggest example, but they really, really respected him.
Bill, thank you so much for the time, for helping us break down number 19 overall draft pick to the Raiders, Damon Arnette. Fantastic insight. And again, cannot recommend this enough. Follow Bill Rabinowitz at BR Dispatch. BuckeyeExtra.com is the website. Buckeye Extra Podcast is where you can listen to him as well.
Now, the Buckeye Extra Podcast with Rob Aller, Bill Rabinowitz, and Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to another week's edition of the Buckeye Extra Football Podcast. And we're going to break down the 3-day marathon that was the NFL Draft. 10 Ohio State players were picked among the OSU guys. Who did you like? Who do you think is in a good situation? Rookie minicamp or off-season programs, training camp ever continues?
I like Damon Arnette. I can speak specifically to his maturity. Here's a kid that, can I call them kids? I guess I can. They're like younger than my own kids, so I can call them kids. Here's a kid that I was a guest speaker in an Ohio State communications class. I don't know, 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. He was in that class, a little bit of a knucklehead, even in the class. The one day, seemed disinterested. Punk kid. He's come a long way, matured. Ryan Day talked about that. And I think he's just become a man. And that coming back an extra year helped him, and became a leader and is ready for the NFL. And he just seems like a Raider to me. I don't know about you guys, but he just seems like he's a Raider.
He's got the swagger.
He kind of has a swag, got a little bit of that. And I think it'll be fun.
These are not the Al Davis Raiders anymore. It's still the family.
No,
but it's still John Gruden.
It's still Gruden. I think it'll be fun to watch him, and it's kind of cool that the Raiders got him.
And that goes to show you our next draft pick, Lynn Bowden Jr., wide receiver out of Kentucky, and he is also a quarterback, I guess, dual threat guy. He's kind of a jack of all trades. Well, we didn't need a jack of all trades, but I guess we got one out of Kentucky. I hope he turns out good.
Bowden, what is going on, man?
What's going on, Coach?
We're on the clock. Me and Mayock, man. We're interested in you as a Las Vegas Raider. I have no doubt that you could be a great player, man. But you got to trust me now. You with me?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm excited as hell. I've wanted to coach you from the first time I met you, man.
Yes, sir. I've been waiting on your call.
All right, man. We're going to turn the pick in. You're going to be a Las Vegas Raider. Congratulations, Lynn.
Appreciate that, Coach.
You fired up?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. You enjoy the TV here for a minute. I'm going to have Mike Mayock call you shortly. Congratulations, Lynn.
Appreciate it, Coach.
All right, man. Love you, pal. We'll be in touch. Way to go. See ya.
Who is it, Brett? Who is it, Brett?
Raiders.
I'm Scott Bair with my co-host, Josh Schrock. We do this twice a week now, and I'm sure that you guys at this point are catching a theme. We're going through the 2020 Raiders draft class and trying to really get to know these guys. More than just analyzing what we've read on draft profiles, we're going to the source. We're talking to college beat writers from each one of these guys' hometowns, guys who have seen every practice that they're allowed to see, every game snap, and really trying to get to know these guys and how they tick. Our guest on this Friday edition of the Raiders Talk podcast is Lexington Herald leader, University of Kentucky football writer Josh Moore, and he's here to really give us a deep dive and a breakdown into third-round Raiders NFL draft pick Lynn Bowden Jr., a kid that can do pretty much everything. He played running back and wide receiver and quarterback for the University of Kentucky. He was the Paul Hornung Award winner and a first-team All-American. And Josh, you can follow him on Twitter at JoshMooreHL and read all of his great stuff at Kentucky.com. So, Josh, my first question to you is this, is when you hear Lynn Bowden go in the third round to the Raiders as a running back, what was your immediate reaction to hearing that news?
Yeah, when you see a guy like Lynn, who comes to UK as a quarterback out of high school. As a quarterback out of high school, and then they're trying to turn him into a wide receiver, and it made a lot of progress towards doing that his first 2 years on campus, especially his second year there.
Play action. Wilson lets it go. Bowden gets deep. Got it! Touchdown, Kentucky! 54 yards to silence the crowd at the Swamp.
And then he has to run the ball most of the time at Kentucky his final year on campus.
And Rodriguez gets the block for Bowden, and Bowden to the house again.
You kind of start wondering as you go, and you see how much success he had with that. So I was asking a lot of people leading up to the draft, like, is this a guy that, can he be drafted as a running back? Like, is that kind of an option there? And, you hear mixed things. And with the NFL draft, I mean, the thing you learn about it pretty quickly is people, you can find somebody to tell you anything if you're really trying hard enough.
Yeah.
So, you take that for what it's worth. But there was a lot of, the thing that came up the most often when you hear about, Lynn, it was the versatility. And the UK's coaches throughout the year said, this isn't going to hurt his draft stock. In fact, it's probably going to help it because it's kind of showing what he can do, the sacrifices he's willing to make to be a winner. Because, I mean, honestly, that really was Kentucky's best option at that point at quarterback, was throwing Lynn back there and letting him do his thing. And I mean, if he'd been doing – I mean, he put up some crazy numbers here. And if he'd been doing it from the start of the season, before they had two quarterbacks get hurt, who knows what? I mean, he would have – you're talking Heisman potential numbers. He would have been in the running for sure probably for that. So you get excited about, seeing what he can do with the Raiders. I know John Gruden's obviously a pretty talented offensive mind. I mean, because it's kind of like they drafted three receivers in a way because you got Lynn and then the other two guys. It was kind of funny, on draft night you're looking at you kind of, in a way, you're like, man, did they just say running back because they didn't want to offend the other receiver that they took?
With the 80th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Lynn Bowden, running back, Kentucky.
Well, this is really curious because you could call him a running back, you could call him a wide receiver, or you could call him what they had him play last year, which was quarterback. He was one of the best dual threat quarterbacks coming out of high school. And Lewis, look, he was supposed to make the transition to wide receiver, but then, of course, they had some injuries. They asked him to go back and play quarterback, and he set all kinds of rushing records for the Wildcats this year.
You get excited. I mean, I would think, having all that talent, all that young, new weapons around there will be interesting. And I would bet, with Lynn at least, they'll time in probably a lot of different spots and see what he can do and probably throw him back and return some.
And now from the end zone, the punt with Lynn Bowden near the midfield line. Backs up a little bit. He's got some room to return this one. And very dangerous in the open field. What a move. Bowden trying to get to that corner. He does! To the 10. Touchdown!
He was, he did a little bit less of that, his last year there at UK, just because, you can't have your quarterback returning punts. It'll be fun to see what he does there in Las Vegas. There's obviously a lot of excitement, new city and everything else. I think it'll be good to see what he can achieve.
Josh, you mentioned the versatility. Obviously, that's the big thing. But as you watched Lynn go from high school quarterback to slot receiver to college Wildcat quarterback, what's the most impressive individual part of his game to you?
Yeah, I think his vision, I mean, that's kind of the constant thing throughout, whether you're playing receiver, running back, quarterback, special teams, that's the thing, you see a lot. I was talking earlier this week to Stevie Johnson, another former UK receiver who he went on and played 8-9 years in the NFL. And he, mentioned, because we're kind of doing like this series of former UK guys that we were kind of catching up with. And I asked him, who's been your favorite player to watch? And he brought up Lynn and was just bragging about his vision. And I mean, cause he referenced back to his freshman year when mostly what he did was return punts and stuff.
Going to come to Bowden at the goal line. It's up across the 10, 15, got an alley at the 20, gets outside across the 30, near sideline 35, 40, cuts back into the middle, breaks the tackle at the 50, needs one block, he's got it, it's a foot race, across the 40, across the 30, across the 10.
But he's like, man, you could see it then. He's looking 3 or 4 yards down the field, making moves, 3 or 4 yards ahead of when he makes them. And you can just see, I mean, he's like right then, he's like, that's NFL. He's NFL talent. Even if he'd been drafted and you called him a receiver, when you see him in space, when everybody knew that he was going to run the ball this year, I mean, it's not like it was a surprise. He was running the ball something like 70 or 80% of the plays, and to still be able to make moves and to get into space and evade a defender or two before you end up breaking away. He's fast, but he's not like the fastest guy when you're talking receivers and running backs. But, he's just pretty smart and can see what's happening. And that goes a long way.
When the initial conversation came up and it became necessary for him to switch to that quarterback spot, what was his immediate reaction? Was he accepting of it or not? And was he at all concerned that it might hurt his draft stock? What was his reaction to the initial conversation and then as he got into playing that position?
So he, was in some Wildcat packages, the first couple of years on campus and so it was something like he wasn't, went from never playing to not. And again, like he was, he played quarterback in high school. So it's something he was at least familiar with, being at the position. To hear him tell it, you'd think that he was, lobbying for it as soon as, because Terry Wilson, the guy who won 10 games the year before and was returning, goes down the second game of the season. I mean, to hear Lynn tell it, he was lobbying to be, quarterback from the moment Terry went down. But they had a backup, a quality backup, and then he got hurt. So they throw Lynn in at the end of it was the 5th game at South Carolina. Then they had a bye week and were able to kind of really, they'd seen Lynn and been practicing with him, but really kind of gear the offense around what his skills were and be able to see what they could do with him back there. And he was pumped about it, man. He was just ready to go. He, never said a word. He was never worried about the draft stock thing. The only thing, I think he obviously wanted to show what he could do as a receiver and be able to demonstrate that. But I'm not sure if he'd come, and been playing receiver all year that he would have went any higher than he did. I mean, maybe he ends up in the second round. But you look at what he was able to achieve and because I think the sacrifice, quote unquote sacrifice, became part of his image, and that kind of willingness to do whatever it takes to win kind of made up for what he didn't have in terms of game tape and being able to show his skills, as a receiver, as a pass catcher. But I think, as far as being a draft, potential draftee, it didn't really hurt him, and I think he was kind of aware of that in the moment.
A lot of talk about John Gruden's offense, obviously, is how complex it is, all the terminology. And him and Mike Mayock both said when they met with Lynn, they gave him a quick install, and Lynn was able to just kind of spit everything back to them like no problem.
What's this moment like for you, man, to call yourself an NFL player now?
Man, I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to Vegas, man. Got my family out here with me. I know y'all ain't going to prove it, but if I can say what I say or I wanted to say, I'd be in trouble. But we having fun out here.
To be able to share it with your close family and friends, what's that mean for you?
Man, everything. We ain't supposed to, but they got to make an exception for this. This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
When you got the phone call, I love talking to guys. When they get that phone call, you don't know where it's coming from. You saw the Vegas number. What was going through your head when you got that phone call?
Man, I got Coach Gruden locked in since the combine. I seen his name popped up. I just burst out in tears for real.
Is he in that team? Were they one of the ones that were very strongly for you and very interested?
From day one.
When you have a team that's very interested in you and they show the interest and then they follow through and they pick you, what's that mean for you?
I mean, that go a long way. That's a lot of trust. He shot me a message this morning. I thought it was just a BS with me, but I'm here. I'm going to Vegas.
What did he say to you on the phone call, and what did you say to him on the call?
He's like he wanted to coach me from the first time he met me, and it was a mutual feeling for real. I'm blessed.
What are they getting in Lynn Bowden, the football player?
Come on, you know what time it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to show him who the number 1 draft pick should have been. That's it. You know what time it is.
And obviously going from high school quarterback to not playing quarterback and then playing quarterback in the SEC says a lot about Lynn's football IQ. So I wanted to get your gauge on how smart of a football player Lynn Bowden is.
Yeah, I think after the versatility, you probably – and I would say versatility, but maybe some people would say the IQ is the number one thing because that you hear that a lot from the coaches about how fast he picked up the offense. And that was part of what made it so easy for them to put him back there at quarterback because he knew what was kind of how the whole offense functioned.
A general theme of this Raiders draft class is getting guys that are ultra competitive. And it seems like Lynn fits into that category, just as somebody with that intense motivation and competitive drive, whether it's proving people wrong or proving people right. Do you find that to be one of his kind of maybe not directly related towards football, but is that a characteristic that you noticed? I mean, he kind of willed the Wildcats to victory several times there down the stretch.
Oh, yeah. I think it goes back, going back to the, having to run the ball all the time. It takes a certain kind of dude to know that every defense knows what's going to happen. Because it's not a trick. Eddie Gran, UK's offensive coordinator, at some point we were asking about it and about why it works. And he's like, Lynn, it's like, because, and they had an incredible offensive line. It was in the running for the Joe Moore Award for, the best line in the nation. And a lot of those guys are coming back. So it had started a lot of games before last season. So that's obviously a big component of it, but you have to have, you couldn't have just put anybody back there and had the same result.
You've talked about him growing up in Youngstown, and obviously he has a chip on his shoulder. How did growing up in Youngstown, in that area, kind of shape the player and the person that Lynn has become?
It had, a huge influence because that place, I've never been, but from everything you kind of hear, it's pretty, it can be pretty rough. Kind of, it's a blue collar place. So that kind of just goes hand in hand. And Kentucky, especially because Kentucky has a lot of influence from that area on its, coaching staff, they kind of take that blue-collar mentality to heart. And it works well. The way Kentucky kind of recruits and coaches really works for this state. There are places that I don't know that it would work as well, but it really works well here. They basically run it like a Big Ten program is really what they do. And you can see that in just kind of the types of guys they bring in and what they are trying to, get going here. And Lynn kind of, rolls right into that. And so you take somebody with his talents and being forged in this place where there's just a lot of poverty, a lot of, have to work hard, have to go through and know that, you might wake up one day and somebody's got shot outside, 3 blocks down the road or something. That makes you, you have to be tough. You mentally, as much as anything to be, and to be able to handle something like that. It's not easy. And I think that shows in Lynn's personality. And yeah, he might rub some people wrong, sometimes because of that, but I think he's a nice dude. I really do think he's a good person. I don't, get the impression that he's, any worse for having gone through that.
And just one last question from us, and thank you so much for the time. You talked so much about the sacrifices that he made for the program and putting it on his back. What do you think his overall legacy is going to be? How do you think he's going to be remembered by the University of Kentucky and its fans?
Oh, I would say as one of the best players that's ever played here. I don't think that's hyperbole. And that's in part because there haven't been a whole lot of, Kentucky football as far as, its total history has a lot of guys, like a lot of great players that have played here. I mean, obviously like a Tim Couch. I mean, there aren't many schools that have had a number one overall pick, especially of Kentucky's. Get in relation to like the Alabamas and Ohio States and places like that. I mean, he's definitely, and especially one of the best, just skill guys for sure. Because when you look at the list of names and a lot of these records, they were breaking records last year that have been around for 40 years, 50 years. And a lot of it had to do with Lynn. And so I think you look at that, and if nothing else, that single season is one of the best single seasons. You'll always be able to point to that as one of the best single seasons that's ever been, that's ever happened or been put together by a Kentucky athlete, I would say, in any sport, because it's just, I don't think it's a surprise that he was able to do it, but it's certainly not something that anyone expected, and it kind of came out of nowhere. And that's always fun, right? That's why we love sports. We like having expectations and then having those expectations met. But we really like it when we have expectations and either have them met in a way we didn't, see them happening, or having them exceeded. And I think going into the last season, a lot of people thought, okay, UK lost a lot of talented dudes, had several guys get drafted in the NFL, but they're at a point where they should still make a bowl game and be competitive. And then when you lose two quarterbacks, you reevaluate that, expectation a little bit. And then to see, Lynn just have so much success and the team have so much success after he got thrown into a completely different role says a lot about the program and what he was able to provide for us. So I think I think his legacy, he could go, if he never does anything in the NFL, it ain't going to, hurt what he did at Kentucky at all.
Well, Josh Moore from the Lexington Herald Leader, thank you so much for the time. We kept it a little longer than we planned, but it was all so good and so riveting. And I think that Raiders fans are going to come away with a three-dimensional picture of who Lynn Bowden is. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshMooreHL. Check out his excellent writing at Kentucky.com. Sir, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, I appreciate you, fellas. It was a lot of fun. And, yeah, hopefully Lynn and all the other guys can give you something fun to watch there in Las Vegas next year.
Man, Josh, I don't know if we're just getting lucky or just so many of these college beat writers that we're talking to, they really know their stuff, and they're giving a lot of really good anecdotes and insight about these Raiders draft picks, and Josh Moore was no different. I really feel like I got to know Lynn Bowden a lot better, not only about what he could do as a Raider, but what he did as a Wildcat and how that relates to his professional career. What was a big kind of thing that you took away from that conversation?
The first thing I grabbed onto was just Josh talking about how much Lynn's vision impressed him, because I think when the Raiders drafted him and they said running back, you and I were kind of like, that seems kind of weird. Like they need maybe a bigger back, a guy who can just kind of line up and take care away from Josh Jacobs to give him a breather. But I think what Josh said about his vision, how NFL player, former NFL player Stevie Johnson is so impressed when Lynn was a freshman, saying, hey, he sets cuts up 3, 4, 5 yards ahead. I think that really speaks to what the Raiders see, not only as a running back, return potential, and as a receiver, a gadget player. I mean, he's just a guy that John Gruden is going to want to find ways to get the ball into his hands in any way.
Yeah, and I liked hearing how easy it was for him to transition to all these different positions. And yes, he ran more than anything else, and defenses knew what was coming when he was with the Wildcats. But still, the football IQ is something that Josh Moore talked a lot about, maybe being his second best attribute. And I think that that's going to pair really well to a complex offense and a lot of different things that John Gruden could have Lynn Bowden doing.
There's no doubt. We already heard when they were at the NFL scouting combine, the Mayock and John Gruden brought Lynn in for a quick install, gave him Raiders verbiage, and in 15 minutes they said he spat it right back out, got everything 100%. And then when he left the room, they looked at each other and they're like, hey, this guy's a freaking Raider. So, and I think, we talk about football IQ, and yeah, he was running the ball most of the time, but he still had to direct the offense. He made audibles. His final play as a college player was on the fly, an audible, a post pass when he doesn't throw at all. So the guy is, he's really athletic, but he's also really smart.
His competitive drive, I think, is going to fit in with what the Raiders like and what they like to kind of have him do, because he's going to come in here he's going to have a big role, and that he's going to have to earn his touches.
Yeah, that belief in himself, that edge, like you said. I mean, the quarterbacks go down, and automatically Lynn's going to the coaches saying, "Hey, just put me in. Just let me do my thing." And they're like, "I don't really know. You're a slot receiver. No, just let me do it." And he goes out. They put him in after a bye week. They install a brand new Wildcat offense, and he wills them to six wins into a bowl game win.
He made the most of that experience and gave some glory moments in football to a basketball school. And Josh Moore was saying that he's going to be remembered as one of the best players, one of the best skilled players in program history. He led the team in receiving yards his sophomore year, really as a junior as well, even though he only played 5 games at the position, can't pass the ball to yourself. But nonetheless, he was still able to be productive there and kind of maybe show enough in a number of different roles that he excited John Gruden. Now, we heard on when he was drafted, announced as a running back. Now, John Gruden and Mike Mayock said it was more for the reason of that's where he's going to start. He's going to learn how to play running back. It wasn't necessarily kind of the kind of funny, thought process that Josh Moore had, that maybe they didn't want to draft 3 wideouts in a row. They didn't want to offend Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs with 3 wideouts. But nonetheless, he's not just going to be a standard running back, even as a rookie. No matter what, Mike Mayock was saying, he's going to start here. He may start there, but I think he's going to finish doing a lot more than just lining up behind the quarterback and taking handoffs.
No doubt. In the pre-draft process, he was described as the NFL's next unicorn, which, for NBA fans, it's a little bit of a basketball term. But I remember reading an interview with Lynn Bowden that he did, and they asked him, are you going to be the next Taysom Hill, next Lamar Jackson? And he said, "Nah, man, I'm more athletic than those guys." So I think the labeling as a running back, like you said, is a way to get him on the field. It's a way for him to learn terminology, verbiage of one position, but he's going to move all around. That IQ, that vision, that's just going to accelerate, I think, his ability to pick up the offense. And look, like we said, this offseason has been all about trying to catch up to the Chiefs, and this guy is clearly another huge weapon that they didn't have last year when the offense was pretty mundane and boring. No offense. Mm-hmm. So I think that Lynn Bowden, I'm more encouraged than I was pre-interview with Josh Moore about Lynn Bowden's potential.
Well, I mean, man, you kept hammering that wide receiver position as well when you used 2 of your 3 third-round selections on Lynn Bowden Jr. and Brian Edwards of Kentucky and South Carolina, respectively. Why did you feel the need to keep hitting that same position, Mike?
Well, the reality is for us, Lynn Bowden's going to play running back. And he at Kentucky, it was kind of cool because his junior year, he caught close to 70 passes in the SEC, was one of the top slot receivers in the country. And then his senior year, the quarterback got hurt, and they moved him to quarterback. And he rushed for 1,300 yards in the SEC as a running quarterback / wildcat guy. So we kind of envision Lynn Bowden as first and foremost, primarily a running back. As he learns how to pass protect and do all the different jobs demanded of him by that position, I think the cool thing about him, Rich, is he becomes what John calls a joker, an ability to play running back, slot, wide. We can use him. We could line him up in the wildcat in the red zone. So we envision Lynn Bowden doing a variety of jobs for us, but primarily he'll be a running back. And then Brian Edwards, to us, we had him with a high second-round grade, and he was sitting there at 81 and just couldn't pass up on that.
Brian Edwards, South Carolina, solid receiver. Just a guy that wants to get the ball. Big guy, good receiver, big receiver.
He's a big-bodied, tough guy, the all-time leading pass receiver at South Carolina. He started over 40 games in the SEC. So we were kind of blown away both by his productivity and his consistency in the best conference in the country.
Well, I guess that seems like that was a facet about this draft with the wide receivers. Mike Mayock, by the way, of the Las Vegas Raiders here on the Rich Eisen Show, is that you were getting guys in rounds with grades much higher than what you were getting them. Would you agree in terms of everything? The years that we were working together to this year, deepest wide receiver draft, period? or no?
I think every team in the league went into it knowing that there was quality at the top and depth throughout. And, I think typically the average was 12 or 13 wideouts have gone in the first 3 rounds over the last 5 years. And I think 12 went in the first 2 rounds, which set a record in the modern draft. So certainly every team in the league felt like that was the case. Rich, there were guys in the 4th and 5th round that I was salivating over that were that were wideouts that typically would be 3rd round guys. So yeah, that position this year we thought had the best quality up top and the depth throughout.
And let me just circle back briefly to your second first-round selection, the last of the Khalil Mack first-rounders that Gruden placed in your expert hands to turn into human beings. Damon Arnett. Now, part of the conversation about Arnett leading in and on draft night as well was his tape in the biggest game of the year against Clemson did not suit him very well. I'm sure you saw a similar tape and maybe thought a different thing about this young man, or saw somebody who fought through a difficult night on occasion. What did you see on his film?
What we saw was in 35 starts at Ohio State, we thought he was the most competitive cornerback in this draft, as far as a guy that showed up every week, competed, tackled. He can play inside, he can play outside, he can play the right side, he can play the left side. He played most of this season with a cast on his arm. We thought that what we're looking for, Rich, when John and I sit in a room by ourselves and we talk about what are we trying to construct here, and we talk about competitive, tough guys that come to work every day because they love it, not just because they're getting paid for it, and that's Damon Arnett. So to us, when you're in our division and you're playing the Chiefs twice a year, you mentioned John Elway. They drafted wideouts, they drafted tight ends.
Sure did.
Everybody's trying to get faster and more dynamic to compete with the Chiefs. So in our division, you better line up, you better be fast, you better be competitive, you better be tough, and you better not flinch. And we don't think this kid will flinch.
Round 3, pick 100 from the Patriots, Tanner Muse. Okay, I think this guy could be good. Safety from Clemson.
It's Coach Gruden with the Las Vegas Raiders, man. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I got to ask you, you want to be a Las Vegas Raider?
Hell yeah, more than anything.
You going to play linebacker for me?
Oh, yeah.
Be a captain on special teams?
No doubt.
And I want you to walk everybody down, man. I want you to get a new pair of shoulder pads, though. You got to promise me that. Huh.
Hey, you pick them out, I'll wear them.
Hey, when the first time I met you, man, I said, me and Mike, we both looked at each other and said, we got to get this guy. So we're going to turn the pick in. I want to congratulate you on being a Las Vegas Raider. And we want to keep this Clemson Tiger pipeline hot, man.
Oh, yeah, Clemson family, yes, sir, no doubt.
You excited?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Yes, sir. Everybody's here. Everybody's excited.
All right, man.
Ready to get in there with my brothers and get after it.
That's good. You enjoy your family. Watch it on the TV, and Coach Mayock will call you here in a little bit. But we're really excited about having you. You're going to do a lot of things for our defense, just like you did at Clemson. And just be yourself. Enjoy this moment. And congratulations, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, Tanner. Talk to you soon, pal. See you, man.
And we are here with one of the newest members of the Silver and Black, linebacker, Tanner Muse. And Tanner, congratulations, man. What was that moment like when you got the call from Coach Gruden? And it must have been an incredible one to be able to share that with your family. Just kind of take us through what that was like.
Yeah, it was super excited, super humbled. Just a kid from a small town in Belmont, North Carolina. Being able to just hear my name called, seeing it on the TV, I'm just so blessed to be a part of such a great organization. And have my family and friends around. So just my support staff has helped me get to this point. It was good to see them just be excited with me in the moment. And we really enjoyed it. And we're going to cherish this weekend and really just celebrate all the hard work and dedication it's taken to get here. Everybody from here and Raider Nation's been just pulling for me, congratulating me. So it's a blessing. It really is.
I mean, when you drew this out, right? Because everyone has those little kid dreams about going and playing college and then ending up in the NFL. I mean, I can't imagine when you drew it out that you'd be able to have it go any better than this. Like you said, reuniting with a bunch of old buddies, putting on one of the most iconic uniforms in North American sports. I mean, did you ever let the dream get to this point?
Yeah, I always I always knew I could compete at the highest level, but it was all about just putting the work in. So as a young kid, I always wanted to be the guy, you know. And I feel like a lot of people ask me like, yeah, you really proved them wrong. You really proved the haters wrong. But it's not about proving people wrong. It's about proving the people right that have always been in your corner and by your side this whole time. So just being able to just the people that have believed in me for so long, just being able to just show them that I can do this, that I am this kind of player. It's very fulfilling for me.
You go into the pro day, you run that 4.38. What were your kind of goals and expectations, and what did you want these coaches and GMs to really know about you throughout this draft process?
Yeah, so nobody really gave me any credit running my 40. So at the combine, I was like, I got to turn heads doing that. So I felt like I did that. I ran really well.
Tanner Muse from this year, Deshaun Watson from 2017, and DeAndre Hopkins from 7 years ago, and it's Tanner Muse by a mile.
And then we got into the drill work, and I did all the DB drills in Indy, and I felt like I was really fluid in my motions because I just been able to work on them. When you get into a season, you get to where it's all game plan. You don't really get to show off as much of your movements and things like that. And then thankfully enough, I was able to do my pro day. A lot of guys unfortunately couldn't with this pandemic going around, but we got it in. Got to do all my linebacker drills, show my short shuttle, my L, and showing teams that I can move.
And it's hard to win, and more importantly, to understand the mentality that it takes to win. And so these guys are coming out of a program that's won a bunch of games. I mean, 124 years of Clemson football, they played for one national championship. And now in the last 5, we've played for 4. And just for perspective, and these guys won 29 in a row. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's not easy to do. And just, college football, there's 130 teams. Only 30 teams have had 5 years in a row of 6 wins. So that's 100 teams out there. I mean, that's how hard it is to win.
Right.
And then you go 8, it cuts down. You go 9, and there's only 4 teams that have had 9 10+ win seasons, or 5 10+ win seasons.
Yeah.
So it's a hard thing to do, but they understand it. They know what it looks like, and they also know what it doesn't look like. Mm-hmm. And so I just think if you want to build a culture, you've got to enlist a bunch of guys that are going to help you drive that in the locker room, and more importantly, when you're not watching. Because as you've heard me say many times, champions are made and championships are won when nobody's watching.
Exactly.
And that comes from the type of young men you got in that locker room.
Let's take a visit with Hunter Renfrow, who, by the way, has become a star on local TV commercials, too, back in this area.
He's a star on the ACC network, man. He graced us with his presence. Thank you for coming up there for the tournament. What are you looking for here today, man? Talk about some of these receivers, and especially T. Higgins doing some drills. He didn't at the combine, was a little bit hurt. What does it mean when you have all eyes out on you watching you do these drills?
Well, him and DeAndre. Dre had a great season, and I'm just here to support them. I know they're going to have great careers in the NFL. Hopefully they can be Raiders. A
couple of wide receivers. Can you believe that? Can you believe we got him?
Oh, we thought this was Humphreys. Wait, whoa! Wow. There we go.
Just hanging out with them, and I really haven't seen them a lot. I mean, I've seen them a little.
You've been a little busy.
Yeah, I mean, we had our season, and they got done so late, so it's cool.
You get to the NFL, and I'm sure this is a question many folks have asked you, but it's probably folks watching. Just what was the difference for you? Because again, it's not like you were the dominant guy who was 6'4" on this level, then we're small. I mean, you kind of were in the same role with the Raiders that you were here.
Very similar. It doesn't matter if you're playing in the backyard or playing college, high school, NFL. You're just having fun, and you have your role, and it really is, looking back, it really is so much of a one-play mentality, and you just try to dominate that play. And it's interesting because the NFL is a lot different than college, whereas college, you lose one game, and your season's over, And so you can lose 5 or 6, not that you want to, but you can lose 5, 6, 7 games in the NFL and still make it to the Super Bowl and achieve your dream. So it's different from that aspect a little bit.
And I really think everything through this process has built me up, whether it's interviews, combine, pro day. It's really been good for me.
We were listening to Mike Mayock talk last night, and he said one thing that is going to be important for you. He goes, I want Tanner to learn the mic, and I want him to learn Will. And he goes, he's going to have a lot of stuff that's going to be on his plate next year, but he has the mental fortitude to do it. He's going to be capable of learning all of this. when you take a look at really just the football education part of it, does that excite you that you're going to be able to learn all these new things? You're going to become such an integral piece that you're going to be able, that Coach Gunther's going to be able to move around that defense?
Yeah, I think one problem with football is people become stagnant. They do the same thing over and over, year in, year out, and that's something that is never really the case at Clemson. I got to play a lot of different positions. We got to run a lot of different defenses as the years got on, and it was always something new to learn. There's always a new edge for me to get in the grand scheme of things, and it's really developed me as a player. So being able to just go in and everybody having the confidence in me to learn these things and having a lot on my plate, that's where I strive when my back's against the wall and there's only one way forward. So I look forward to the challenge, and I feel like I'm a very football educated mind, so I look forward to the challenge.
Hey, let me put your GM hat on for a second, Tanner. Give me the scouting report on Big John. What's he do well?
Big John, he is a beast. So he came in, I'm a year older than him, so he came in and I saw him. I was like, this dude is going to be a dude. You know, you get that quote unquote dude. That's not used a lot. You know, it's very rare when you get to call somebody a dude. You know, I don't know the last time we've had a offensive lineman be drafted. Really big guy, real strong, got that attitude, that edge you need on the football field, and he's just a really good, humble dude. So I look forward to just getting back with him and getting back to work.
You guys, this collective draft class that you're part of, is going to be part of history in the sense that you are the first draft class for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I know this is probably a question that is better asked, 10, 15 years from now when you wrap up your career. But what does it mean to you that you're going to be part of this first group that is going to open Allegiant Stadium, that is going to be the first professional football team in Las Vegas? That's got to be, for lack of a better term, that's just got to be super cool.
It's special. It really is. It really hasn't settled yet just because there's so much craziness going around in my life right now. But I'm just super blessed and humbled by this opportunity. And I think this class is going to be very special. When you look at the picks that we've gotten some steals. I think Brian Edwards, going against him year in, year out in the rivalry, he's a special dude. I know firsthand, but I feel like this class is going to be very special and just another momentum step going into this new stadium. I'm really looking forward to getting in there, seeing how it is. I said it looked like the Death Star, so the dark side of Tanner Music is coming out very soon.
Oh, I like that, and the fans are going to love that, brother. And the last one, man, can we expect, is this beautiful mustache of yours, is it going to make it to the desert? Please, I beg of you, tell me that it is.
I don't know. Nobody loves it. Everybody, they're like half and half. I got it kind of drawn down a little bit, where it's got a little hint of a Fu Manchu, but just a little bit of hint of a Dr. Disrespect stash. I don't know if you know him.
I do. I'm the streamer. Yeah, I know Dr.
Two-time, and I'm a two-time. I'm a two-time national champion. So you don't mess with the two-time, as he likes to say. But we'll see. I can do a little bit like within this little frame. I can't grow a beard, but I can get a goatee going. This stash might stay. It might not. We'll see.
Oh, you got to keep the people on your toes. Well, hey, Tanner, congratulations, man. We mean that so sincerely. We are so excited to get you out here to Vegas. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the next couple of days with your family. But we got a lot of work to do, brother. So we cannot wait till we see you in person, whenever that may be. But like I said, dude, enjoy it and congratulations.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
4th round pick, John Simpson, a guard out of Clemson.
Hey, John, do you want to be a Las Vegas Raider? All right, man.
So it was like a boring party. It was like a party I really didn't want to be at. People I didn't want to talk to. That's what the draft was like. Not excited, really. We'll see what happens. Let's hope that these young men step into line. But where is, other than the cornerback and the safety, where is the rest of the defense? Where's the linebacker? One of the best linebackers up was available, and we picked Damon Arnett. I mean, we need linebackers.
Okay, linebacker. We all know what they did at linebacker. They got, obviously, two of their bigger deals, Nick Kwiatkowski and Corey Littleton. Those are two really established kind of three-down guys. They have Nick Morrow, who's, I think, a pretty good reserve at Mike or Will backer. The Sam linebacker spot could go to a guy like Markel Lee. Let's also not forget that Carl Nassib can stand up and rush, so he could be an option maybe if they want to get creative. What do you think of that group, knowing full well the Raiders play tons of nickel, that you're pretty much going to see Kwiatkowski and Littleton on the field most of the time?
Yeah, no, it's loads better than what they were trotting out last year. I mean, they have two guys who are young, can cover tight ends, can cover running backs. Kwiatkowski is a good caller in the middle of the defense. I think Paul Gunther's got to be extremely happy to be going from Will Compton to Tahir Whitehead, Vontaze Burfict to two of these guys.
Yeah, and I think they're set there. We've seen some, I think Mel Kiper had it or something still. I'm taking Patrick Queen, in the first. I think that's ignoring what they've done here and the fact that these two guys are 26 years old. They have youth and experience because Nick Morrow's played a lot of football. So they have experience there. Markel Lee, I think, in that Sam role isn't too bad. Going to play 20 snaps a game.
Right.
Be tough against the run and you'll be fine. I think that's a good group. I think that's one of those things that you can kind of trust those guys. Kwiatkowski has some injury history, but I think that those are guys you just put on the field and let them play.
I agree. Littleton's never been hurt. And I think that having functional linebackers is just going to make the unit better in general. I mean, if Littleton is even a little worse than he was with the Rams, the unit's going to be a lot better as a whole because you're not trusting, like I said, Tahir Whitehead, Will Compton to cover Travis Kelce and make key plays.
Yeah, and Paul Gunther's defense needs athletes. It needs raw talent to be able to make his scheme run well. That's true for most schemes, but this one especially. And having Littleton, a guy that can really go sideline to sideline and really cover. And while he's not the biggest dude, he can make tackles. And I just think it's a really good group. I think it's an A group. I think it's the strength of this defense. And two really smart, aggressive plays at linebacker after what we've seen for so many years, blatantly ignoring the position. Gosh, like when they had Jack Del Rio as head coach and Ken Norton as defensive coordinator, two legit stud middle linebackers as their primary defensive coaches, and you still don't go get one? It must have driven those guys insane.
This draft blew, in my estimation. This is a terrible draft, and I've had plenty of time to think about it, look at it, ponder on it. And I think it kind of sucked. But we see. I hope I'm wrong. But I don't think I'm the only Raider fan who thinks that. And that's the way I think about this draft. We have players coming back from that last year that played pretty well. The Feral Cat's got to step it up. I mean, he was dragging last year. He better step it up big. Max Crosby is the man. But the Feral Cat better get it, be a little more consistent because he might not be on the team much longer. Other than that, we got some free agents. We've improved our team. I don't know so much about this draft, but I know we've improved our team in other areas and free agency. Let's just see how it works out because lots going on this year. The new move and all that tends to kind of stifle a team just a bit, but we shall see. We shall see. I'm looking forward to some football. Damn, I've been watching reruns for days. I love it! Raider Greg. Raider Greg.
Raiders can suck it.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, shit.
My man, Juan Jorge.
Whatever.
Slap a pad, partner. Well, before we get into the Boneline, which is my favorite part of this show, let me just give you guys a rundown what I've been doing. Raider Greg has been hunkered down at home. I'm 63, probably got some lung damage for some smoke inhalation, but I'm not in the best shape. I'm not doing too bad. My wife, she's got some issues, so we're concerned about the COVID, and rightfully so. So we've been stuck at home, sticking it out at home. Trying to watch all the sports programs that I normally watch, ESPN, First Take, Colin Cowherd. Nobody is doing nothing. They're boring shows rehashing old news about Michael Jordan, who's the best and who's the best player ever, and goes on and on and on.
The World Health Organization declared that the coronavirus crisis is now a pandemic.
Rudy Gobert has tested positive for the coronavirus. This astounding and unprecedented story continues to evolve. The NBA is suspending the season.
This is crazy. This can't be true. It seemed more like out of a movie than reality.
This is the last night of NBA games for the foreseeable future.
I've always wanted to be a sportscaster. I've always wanted to do this job. Nothing can prepare you for being the host of a show during something like this. And the something like this is coming on the air the day after a major American sports league decides to suspend its season because there is a pandemic flu going around this globe without a vaccine or known cure coming down the pike for months, if not maybe a year.
Stephen, I would pay money to listen to your analysis of dodgeball or stone skipping or arm wrestling. Which most intrigues you?
Well, listen, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, all of it at this particular moment in time, obviously we're dealing with very trying times. There's no denying that. There's no way to get around that.
I don't understand the argument to be made that people are overreacting. Think about insurance. You know that you may spend tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a life to have car insurance, and you'll never get in a wreck. But you're just doing it to protect yourself. It's smart, so you don't get sued, right? It's the same thing with coronavirus. The upside to this not spreading to 70% of the country is social distancing and canceling. The downside is, well, I don't get to watch Dayton play. Nobody cares. I mean, nobody cares. I mean, the big picture, just don't be stupid. I'm going to stay in the house overwhelmingly if I can. I'm going to go on a long walk today. But if I can not go to public places, I'll try to avoid them. I'll walk around outside if I can, get some fresh air. But, I'm not going to go to any concerts or venues. I'm not going to go to any games. I don't think we should have them. I think it's smart. They predicted this week there would be a little bit of panic, market crash. Be very aware. There's going to be widespread canceling of events. I was told that Friday. It's just the smartest people have been ahead of this thing. Like Belichick's always a little ahead of the curve. The smartest people I've talked to on Friday were predicting this. This is where leadership is really important. I don't want to make this a political issue. I think you are defined in life by how you handle crises as a parent, as a CEO, as a commissioner, as a president. This is a real crisis. You just hope we make good decisions going forward. This is not a hoax, as was suggested a week ago. It has never been with the smart people.
Charles Barkley, Hall of Famer inside the NBA on TNT, joining us. Charles Barkley, you'd look good.
That I am not going to complain because, man, I just want to shout out to all the first responders out there, all the nurses and all the doctors who are, normally unless you're a cop or a fireman, you don't have to risk your life every day. But all these people who are in the restaurant business who are going to lose their job, who have lost their jobs and are going to lose their jobs because even when this pandemic is over, a lot of these restaurants are, number one, people are not going to have money to go there and eat, but also people are going to be afraid to congregate. in the restaurant industry. So my thoughts are with them. So I'm not going to complain at all. I mean, yes, I'm bored. I'm not even worried about the NBA coming back. I'm not worried about the NHL coming back. I'm not worried about football. I'm just worried about the big picture because, man, the most important thing, how are we going to do this and keep anybody safe? Man, I don't know how you can do it and keep people safe.
Yeah, I just don't see fans coming back, being able to come back until.
Dan, right? Dan, that's gone out the window. That's not even. We shouldn't even be discussing that. There's no fans coming to sporting events if we start playing again. That's got zero chance of happening. Because let me tell you something. I was talking to my lawyer. He says if you guys get one of these people sick and they die, or one of these players die, legally, we're going to be up a creek.
Yep. I'll leave you with this. The report came out that Michael Jordan decided to do this documentary. He had all this footage. And they said that they won't release it. NBA Entertainment will not release it until Michael says that they can release it. He said no for decades. Then on the day LeBron wins the championship, he tells the producer, okay, let's do this. Do you think that's just a coincidence? Or maybe it's Mike's way of saying, let me remind some people and inform a new generation of just how damn good I was?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but there's a couple things about this documentary. Number one, when just looking at Michael talking to Roy Williams, talking about nobody's going to work harder than me, and nobody ever has. And then when he wanted to come back and play with a broken foot, and Jerry says, no, you're going to risk your career. And he just wanted to play. And I wish the number one thing that these young players today get out of this documentary, you can have all the followers you want. You can make all the money you want. The most important thing is being the best player. That's what I hope these young guys get out of this. But let me finish up with this. What he went through against the Bulls, that's what to me makes him the greatest player ever. No disrespect to Kobe, because Kobe's the closest I've seen to Michael. No disrespect to LeBron, who's an amazing man, number one, an amazing player. But to get beat down like that and keep coming back, that reminded me like why I think this dude is the greatest basketball player ever. I mean, because the way they play the NBA today, Dan, and I'm not the old get off my lawn guy, and you said it earlier, what they did to that dude 3 years in a row, for him to keep coming back, well, that's what make him the GOAT.
Okay, back to my question. Do you think Michael, this was a calculated move on the day LeBron wins the championship, he decides to do it, allow them to do a documentary on the last year of the Bulls?
How the hell am I going to know that?
I just ask you. I know you don't know everything, but you know Michael is the most competitive guy you've ever been around. And to me, it was Michael saying, yeah, LeBron's won another title here. Maybe, let me just put this out there and just let people, just remind them of how great I was.
Well, let me tell you something. If that was his goal, we are reminded.
I know.
Hey, let me tell you something, Dan. As a person who lived the Jordan era, listen, man, like I say, I'm not trying to be the old guy. You watching these highlights bring back some serious memories how great this guy was.
Sparse news in sports is horrible because once you see this happening from a fan's perspective, where do you go? The well is dry for sure. So you try to find some information, you try to listen to things, but nothing's going on. There's nothing going on. So that's another reason I just closed down, because really nothing was happening. And for me, my big escape was building a chicken coop, to be honest with you. And now I'm going to have some chickens. Yes, I am. Always wanted them. So now I got them. Matter of fact, I won't have to worry about running out of fresh eggs anytime soon. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Kind of looking forward to the Raiders season starting anytime it will. Looking forward to a game this year. If I can afford to go out to Las Vegas. Seeing how that works. Who knows how that's going to work. Either way, I'd like to get my ass in a seat there. It is beautiful. And I cannot wait to go. So hopefully, God willing, I'll be able to go see the Raiders at home in Las Vegas. It'll be an epic trip for my wife and I, and we're seriously looking forward to it. So let's get to the bone line now that you know the boring story of Raider Greg. 1-800-620-7181. It still works. Call it up. Yep, call it up because the robocalls are freaking killing us. All right, here it goes. The bone line, the first caller, and I don't know how since March 19th, for crying out loud. Who is it? And our caller was the Prez, and you know him. And the Prez is a positive man. And listen what he has to say. I like his call. What's up, brother?
Good morning, Raider Nation. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that there was a last podcast like 3 weeks ago. But let me first say it's good to hear everybody. Happy New Year, which I know that we already there. But let's get down to the countdown, shall we? This is the prayers, as you already know. The state of the world is in disarray with this virus. Hopefully it will reside. We can go about our lives. Everything's been pushed on hold. The draft is possibly canceled, et cetera, et cetera. But what can we do? We pray, we hold tight, and we see what's happening. I saw the moves that we did with getting Mariota and a few key players. Can't wait to see what happens to the draft. And let's just see, again, as I said, what happens. You know, it's going to be very interesting. I've come to grips to realize that, hey, perhaps it's over in Oakland. However, that building is still not being built with this virus. Everything's at a standstill, but I won't open the door with that right there, you know. That's a whole nother topic. But Raider Nation looks promising. Hopefully we'll do better. Let's just see what happens. That's my thing. Let's just see what happens. Good to hear from you, Raider Greg, Raider Randy, the Raider Nation. Let's just see what happens. This is the prayer saying, Raiders. Y'all have a good one.
Yeah, it has been a long time, and the COVIDs, you know what's going on, man. You know everything that's going on. I hope that you're okay. I hope all the fans are okay. I'm blown away. You know, I can't believe that this has put such a stifling on everyone's way of life. And I'm not complaining, trust me. I'm just saying our familiar life has changed a great deal. And in that, thanks for the call, brother. You absolutely have a right. Praying is the right deal. Trust me on that. I hope you're doing well, brother. And the next caller, my very good brother out of Dallas, Texas, Raider Jesse James in the house. Awesome Raider fan for days. What is happening, my good brother?
What's up, Raider Greg? Raider Nation, this is Raider Jesse James, Dallas, Texas. I'm in quarantine, as most of us are, but I believe I came down with the virus. And I'm watching a bunch of Raider films here in my home, being isolated away from my family. And I decided to call you guys and just say what's up. Haven't listened to these podcasts in a while. We haven't had one, Raider Greg. Don't let us down now. But for anyone out there wondering what it feels like, it's like an extended flu. You get the chills. That's the number one sign. Second sign is the loss of taste. That's one thing. But hug your loved ones tonight. Be safe. I used every precaution I could take. I work from home, and the only thing I can think of is when I went to Walmart. Even then I was covered and everything, but I'm good, Raider Nation. I'm going to get through this. Luckily, I'm young, I'm healthy, and I think I went through the worst symptoms already. But I'm stoked for the draft coming up, and I'm stoked for what we will accomplish this year. Raider Greg, love you, brother. Raider Nation, love you guys. Be safe, and let's go Raiders.
Talk about a little reality on the Raider Nation podcast. My good brother, I pray that you're fine. I pray that you didn't have to go to the hospital. I think Randy reached out to you. I think you're better. From what he said, you're better. So that's a good thing, man. God bless you. And that just goes to show you, man, right here, Raider Nation podcast. Yes, you can get it even if you're making all the precautions, even if you're taking them all. So as we open up our country, let Jesse James, Raider Jesse James, lay it out there. Be careful, be safe, because it's there. And even if you're taking precautions, you can get it. God bless you, bro. Thank you for calling the show, man. I'm humbled, fully. Can anyone tell me that the Prez is not die-hard silver and black? Can somebody just say it? Because you'd be lying, man. The Prez calls in again. Great call. Check it out.
What's going on, Raider Nation? Raider Randy, Raider Greg. This is the Prez coming at you for the 2020. We have drafted our first two players. I'm satisfied. Actually, I had Riggs as my first choice, and I know everybody might have a different opinion. But let's just see what's going to happen on this field, you know. Remember, there was clamoring and fussing and stuff last year, but, hey, our picks ended up being pretty cool, you know. I was on the fence about it. Let's just wait and see what's happening. It's a brand new era. I'm starting out with a brand new flavor, being positive, being upbeat. About to get ready and get back on the barge, so I get a chance to catch one more day the second and third round draft picks. Actually, going to have the third round picks, so that should be very interesting. So I hope everybody is doing good during this coronavirus stand down. Get a chance to just chill out, and hopefully the world gets back better. Until then, Raider Nation, this is the Prayers coming at you. I'm upbeat, and I am ready. Let's see what we're going to get later on for the third round. Take care. Raiders.
Listen, man, I wasn't so happy about the draft, but hey, man, like, it's a crapshoot. We'll see what happens. Could be the best draft we've ever had. We just have to see where we end up. And this season is a weird one. So training camp and all the stuff that we're used to and actually spoiled to have is going to be a little different. I love the positive, brother. You keep bringing it, man. I'm telling you. You just keep bringing it. Amazingly enough, we have a first-time caller, Raider Trevor, out of Phoenix, Arizona. Raider Trevor, welcome to the Raider Nation podcast family, brother. What the heck is going down?
Raider Greg, Raider Randy. This is my first time calling in. This is Raider Trevor out of Phoenix, Arizona. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I love the show. Lots of opinions. Some I don't agree with, some that I do. The draft is over as of yesterday, and looks good. I think everyone in the last podcast seemed like they're bashing Derek Carr and sometimes making Mariota sound like he's so great. I think they're pretty equal. They've had their injuries, their weird injuries, both of them weird but major in a lot of ways. I think it's pretty obvious by all the wide receivers that they picked up in the draft that they're going all out on these two quarterbacks. And if Derek doesn't work out with them, there's no excuses. They'll move on to Mariota. If they don't move on, if they both suck, maybe they'll just bench him and pick up one of those leftovers like Cam Newton or Jameis Winston if we're really desperate. But overall, thanks for doing the podcast. Thanks for keeping it going. And it's just another little bit of sports news that we can sink our teeth into while everyone's trying to get through this pandemic and everything. So keep it up. Thanks for being a part of my day. And let's go Raiders.
Good call, brother. Good call. I'm glad you listened. Glad you called, for sure. I know it's been a while since I've done a show, but, well, it is what it is. And I'm glad you like it. Opinions or not, it's always good to have everybody's opinion on here. And that's why we have the Boneline. It's a pretty cool thing. That's how you guys keep me in line, you know. So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of going to be a weird season. We'll see about our draft picks. It's hard, man. It's hard right now. All sports are on hold. So I have nothing to say. Even though our draft, even though that whole thing we went through, I didn't do a show. I was just not into it. To be honest with you, I just couldn't do it. I wanted to see what was happening. And still, you know, we're not out of the woods in a lot of ways. So I'm doing a show because it's time. And that's all I got to say about that. Appreciate it, brother. Thanks for the call. And our next caller is Raider Tom from Minneapolis, Minnesota. What a trip that is. My heart goes out to you and your family, brother, your whole community. It is nuts. It's definitely nuts around where you are. And please be safe in every way. What do you have for the Raider Nation, my good brother?
Hey, Raider Greg. This is Raider Tom out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Yeah, the draft was last week and a couple days ago. I'm happy what we got. We got Henry Ruggs and Damon Arnett. Henry Ruggs is 4.27 in the 40 combine. And Arnett, he actually was slow in the combine, but I heard he was dealing with a hamstring injury and a few other things, but I heard he's really fast. I trust Mayock and Gruden. Last year we got great guys. We got Cleve, the Farrell cat, Cleveland Farrell. We got Mad Max. Max is doing an awesome job. Josh Jacobs, which he did a fantastic job until he got hurt. This year we should be doing really, really well. I trust those guys. Those guys know what they're doing. I know that people thinking that we should have got CeeDee Lamb or the other receiver, but I think they knew all along who they wanted to get that speedster, Henry Ruggs. And I'm looking forward to this year. It's going to be a great year. I'm looking forward to going to Vegas and watching the team play. Hopefully I'll get to see you guys down there in Vegas. I'll be flying down from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Get to see like Gorilla and the rest of the crazy cast that comes down there. All right, Raider Greg, it's Raider Tom out of Minneapolis. You have a great day, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, that is a great appraisal. I hope that the team lives up to it. I think there's going to be a little more turmoil than that this year just because of the move and everyone trying to settle in and get to feel in Las Vegas. This COVID thing also, this racial thing also, it's crazy, Tom. Like I said, God bless you and your family. And I just, my best wishes for the entire community you live in, bro. It's crazy. God bless you. And our next caller is the Ghost Raider. What you got for us, Ghost?
What's up, Raider Nation? This is Ghost Raider coming at you. Man, I'm just sitting here in my car and I'm like, man, is there ever going to be another Raider podcast? Oh my goodness, man. Maybe I'm not looking in the right spots. Maybe I need to get upgrade or something, but I can't find it anywhere. I'm seeing nothing but old podcasts, and I listen to the old ones just because I need some kind of Raider football, something, experiencing this pandemic. And everybody, first and foremost, y'all be safe out there. All my brothers, all my Raider sisters, y'all be safe. All right, man. It's nothing to play with, but, at the same time, you have your own life to live. You do whatever you got to do to live. Simple as that. But go back to Raiders stuff. I'm glad that we got a good draft. I am excited about our draft. I wanted Ruggs from the beginning, so I let everybody jump on board later, but I've been on board. Out of the three, I wanted Ruggs. Arnett, I didn't know nothing about. We're going to see. We had some other good ones, man. We had a good draft, guys. I know this kind of late. I haven't been able to talk to nobody, man. I'm just so missing the Raiders. Raider Greg, man. Won't cry, man. Won't cry. I'm going to be a grown man crying. Please don't do this to me, man. I need a podcast. Just one. Season on its way. I see it 10-6. Let's get it done. Let's go to the playoffs. Let's do what we got to do to get to the bowl. With that being said, I'm out.
I freaking love that call, brother. I freaking love it, man. Don't make a grown man cry. Well, hell, I don't make you cry, man. I want to make you laugh. That's what it's all about for me. Bring some joy. Bring something, but I haven't had no information. Not too real happy with our picks because of what was left on the table. Honestly, individually, I'm sure they're great guys, but we needed. There were some picks out there, especially in the second, first round guy. Man, Damon Arnett. There was a lot of talent we could have got at needed places like linebacker. Well, okay, I can go over a lot. We'll see what happens though, because you got to be positive. You got to be like the Prez. You got to be positive, and I am. I'm positive. We got a new home. We got a new look. We got a new place, and I'm feeling good about our team. We got to just bust through this situation and get to the other side, brother. Get to the other side. God bless you and your family. Please be safe. And last, but certainly not least, Raider Jesse James from Dallas, Texas. Check him out.
What's Raider Greg, Raider Andy, Raider Jesse James calling in, man, to give you an update status. I am COVID-19 free. Last time I called, I was feeling a little down, but I was still repping. I isolated myself from my family for 2 weeks straight in a room. Came out, I say, after the, 16, 17 day. And I went to go get retested, and I have been COVID-free for about 3 weeks now. So everything's great. This year sucks, but I'm also grateful for being alive and my family being healthy. Very unfortunate what's going on throughout the world, throughout everything. This call is to give you guys just some hope, man. Hang in there for anyone that went through what I went through. COVID is no joke. People handle it different. Some people get it worse than others. But if you have it, hang in there. Call in the Boneline or stay in touch. Get your mind off of it. Try not to think about it too much. Half of it's a mental thing. But everybody be safe. I love you guys. Love Raider Nation. Cannot wait for this season to start. Raider Jesse James out of Dallas. I'm out.
Now that is a way to end the bone line. A success story, a Raider fan right here on our little show. God bless you, bro. God bless your family. Tough ride for that disease. I got to tell you, anybody who's out there that's gotten it or had it, I've heard it's brutal. I've seen it's brutal. Don't let your guard down. But at the same time, man, be Raider fans. You can be excited. I'm excited. Watch some old football games. I've been watching a bunch of old Raider games. And you know what? In just a moment, there's just a time when you just lose where you are and you travel there. And, well, it's worked for me. I got to tell you that. Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for reaching out to me, Raider Greg. I'm still here, and we're going to be here. We're going to try to get to Vegas this year, too. You can put the money on it. That's for sure. If they're going to have a game, we're going to try to get our ass in the seat. I'm preaching to myself on that one. So, Raider Nation, God bless you. Please be safe. Please be good human beings. And, you know, it doesn't... this phrase has been said a million times. Martin Luther King, man, you judge a man by the content of his character, man. My life has been judging somebody on the content of their character. I don't know why it's so hard, but it's got to get easier, man. It's got to get easier. God bless the Raider Nation, whoever and wherever and whatever hell color you are. God bless you. I am Raider Greg, and we are out.